Welcome back to Restauranttopia. We got a great episode with Dave Ross. Why is the supply chain broken? And what you can do to prepare your operation for long-term success. This thing is not going away.
Imagine a perfect world where you can build a restaurant, open the doors, and make loads of money. Unfortunately, those days are over. It takes great leadership, hard work, and long hours to operate a successful restaurant. Together, we can make it happen. This is Restauranttopia.
Dave, how you doing?
Brian, I'm doing great. It's great to be back in the lab.
Oh, man. I'm so happy to have you back.
I've missed being here.
All right.
I'm sure that listeners probably not have the same reaction, but I've missed being here.
A lot of fan mail coming in. I don't know if you heard this week, the AWS servers were down. I contribute that to all the copious amounts of emails that we're getting.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. It's been a while. So,
okay. All right. Well,
yeah, no, but and I think I kind of I forced this episode in to say, hey, we got to record this because we just received a really nice infographic that explained every step of the supply chain and what it actually means to say the supply chain's broke, or the supply chain's garbage, or all the things that, you might have said in your restaurant, or your sales rep has said to you, or distributor has said, or supplier has said. We wanted to walk through the steps because, there's some things that maybe need to be explained to really understand the full gravity of this whole situation.
Okay. I'm going to talk 2018, pre-pandemic. If some of the things that were happening today, this would be my, this is what I'd be hearing from operators. The distributor sucks. The rep is not doing a good job punching the orders. What are some of the other things you've heard?
Oh, I mean, everything from, it'd be like, you can't get my truck here on time. You can't get me the product. You can't, your prices are too high. Yeah. Everything that would be the reason to leave what you're currently doing as a restaurant operator.
And now with the supply chain shortage, you're seeing the worst and the worst of the worst of the supply chain. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's broken on every level, and that's what you're going to do a deep dive in. Can't wait to hear it.
No, and I think it's you're going to see a lot of you're probably going to feel like maybe the record skipped a couple times because there's going to be some things that are going to be in every aspect. Labor shortage, increased costs, like all these things that you're experiencing, even in your restaurant. These things are happening all over this as well. So, don't worry that your podcast player is not working properly. You're going to hear us repeat ourselves on a few things, but this is real stuff that's happening. So there's really 6 areas of the supply chain that we're going to talk about, starting with raw materials, going all the way to the consumer coming into your restaurant. So let's start with raw materials. Forecasting raw materials and demand, it's supply and demand. Like demand is very high right now, whether it be retail, food service, whatever it is. Remember, you're talking raw materials. So in your restaurant, you're not only competing with restaurants, you're competing with retail as well. And we'll talk about that a little later. But the demand is very high. Yeah. Okay. Supply is low. Okay. Why supply low? Many countries that are literally shutting down production or shutting down parts of their country with COVID outbreak. There was a point, and I think it might still be going on in China, where they were literally they would shut a port down if they had one person with COVID. They would shut the whole thing down. Yeah. So if you could imagine, like that creates a huge bottleneck. Yeah. You know what I mean? In manufacturing and production, and then also transportation.
One thing that I think that people miss too, the supply chain was so efficient. From the 90s on, we got into this just-in-time manufacturing, and there wasn't a ton of slack in the chain. So you look at that, there's no back of the grocery store, where there's just this huge warehouse behind the grocery store. Everything's on the shelves, right? And then it comes in the next day and the next day and the next day. So the fact that these things are running out and having shortages, it makes sense because there's no slack in the supply chain. So the first issue of disruption, it has a domino effect.
Yeah, no, and that's a great point because you're right. Like it was so efficient. Like you think the computer chips, that's going on with you can't find a car, you can't find, all because of a computer chip. You know what I mean? Like again, it was so efficient and so on demand and so like to the second, any ripple. And then this isn't a ripple. Like this is like an atomic bomb.
It's not coming a week late. It's like, we sold your product to somebody else that wanted to pay more.
Right. I had somebody the other day telling me, because we were discussing like what's the worst industry hit, and I said I would put some money down that the food service industry is one of the worst hit, if not the worst. And he was like, no, my buddy's in appliance sales, and they got to wait 8 weeks to get appliances. And I'm like, hold on. He took the money, and then he's going to ship it whenever it comes, right?
Yeah.
That sounds a little better than what we're dealing with.
That's not, we're not serving brisket burgers tonight because we're out of them.
Right.
Like that's different. Like it's just those lost sales and disappointing customers, which you never want to do.
Yeah, for sure. So that's on the raw materials end. And then obviously, there's some other circumstances that happen. We've had some major storms, whether it be in the Carolinas or in Louisiana, and hurricanes and different things that have, either destroyed crops or shut down plants or lost electricity or the gas line in the Carolinas. Like some different things that have happened that have also, piled on to those issues. And then labor shortage, whether it be social distancing, not being able to have as many people together working, or just people not working. Labor shortage is going to be something that's going to be throughout this whole episode. So then we got the raw materials. What do we do then? We got overseas transport. You guys have probably seen on the news, the ships sitting out in the ocean.
Ports are backed up.
Okay. And, the cost, some of this could be opportunistic, but
some of it could be
opportunistic. There's literally been a 500% to 600% increase in containers. To get a container from China to the United States used to be, let's say, just $4,500.
Yeah,
it's now
35 to 4,500.
It's now close to $30,000 to get a container.
And that's down. It was 35 to 40 grand.
Yeah, and depending on the product that's on that container, you could actually save money getting it done domestically now, just because of the freight to get the container, not even the product cost, just the extra freight. If you got 1,000 cases on a container of something, that's $30 a case. All of a sudden, the United States is looking pretty nice if we had the production to do it. Again, efficiencies and cost cutting and all that stuff, have really put us in a weak position as far as the supply chain goes.
And this is domestically what we need to do as far as policy in the United States. But whether it's 9x9s or paper products or what have you, we need to onshore some of those items and start making them here domestically.
Yeah, no, but we're way behind on that.
No,
that's there's no overnight fix there. And then
but this has exposed it.
Oh yeah, for sure, no question. So one other thing on this that I realized doing some research is that it's not only a labor shortage in these overseas container things, but it's actually a skilled labor shortage. So what I was looking at was that actual crane operators.
Okay.
So the ship could be sitting there, but pre-pandemic they might have had 6 crane operators unloading the ship. Now they got 1.
Oh, wow.
So it literally takes 5 times longer to get the ship unloaded because they only got 1 crane operator. So
you think that would be done with a computer, right? Like
yeah, you'd think.
I mean,
I'm sure somebody's working on it now. So everybody's seen that the containers, being on, anchored out at sea, waiting to get a spot and get unloaded and all that stuff. So that's caused a huge bottleneck. So that's number 2, the transport. Number 3, the manufacturers and suppliers in the United States. So, the raw materials, whether they're domestic or international, and then, doing it here, getting the product into the supplier. So we're short 80,000 drivers in transportation across the country.
Wow.
80,000 we're short.
That's a lot.
Why is that? I mean, I look at it, it's like, not a sexy job.
No.
Okay. You could make pretty good money, but a lot of times you're over the road and a lot of those things. Right before the pandemic, they introduced electronic logs because everybody used to cheat and drive more than you legally should. Now they actually shut the truck down. It's actually a part of the computer system in the truck. So after you drive a certain amount of time, it actually shuts the truck down. And I just learned this recently. I didn't realize
know that, yeah.
Because we had a produce truck who ran out of hours and they were like 2 hours away from us, but they had to stop.
Yeah.
And so I told the broker, I go, well, what's the fine for going over the hours? I go, can we just pay the fine and have the guy get up there? I was thinking, like, how do we get around this? Yeah. So I was like, can we get around this somehow? Like, can we just pay the fine and get the truck here? And he goes, no, the truck shuts off. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
So he goes, it can't go over 5 miles an hour because the only thing you're able to do is just unhook or move it or whatever, but it won't go over 5 miles an hour until midnight. Or whatever the hours that he has to be off. And I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy. Oh, wow. So it's like, you can't even cheat.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, but that happened pre-pandemic. So now you do that. And it was a kind of a driver shortage, even pre-pandemic, that was talked about a lot.
No, there definitely was.
Because, you look at the millennials and the Gen Z, like they're not going to truck driving school and getting a job driving a truck. Like it's just not. Now, do I think that's going to switch in the future? Some of the trades and some of the stuff, I feel like
I see that
people are going to get hip to that because it is a great career that, that you can make money at and use your hands and work for a living and stuff like that. So I think it's going to flip, you know what I mean? But not anytime soon.
But I also see with drivers in that area of the economy, you also have third-party delivery. You have Amazon. You have the postal service. I worked out this morning at 6 o'clock, and at 7 o'clock when I came back, I saw 3 USPS trucks delivering at 7 a.m. So, I mean, there's definitely a demand and a lot of product that is being shipped to the Postal Service and Amazon.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, and they're grabbing the employees. So, one other thing to note as far as cost, like wooden pallets have increased 400% in
really?
What they cost. Yeah, wooden pallets.
Yeah.
Okay, what's all this stuff shipped on? I mean, now that a lot of people use plastic, but wooden pallets have gone up 400%. Listen, labor shortage in manufacturing. I mean, there's still, social distancing and OSHA regulations and still things that on the manufacturing and production end that are causing low supply and low production and all the other things coming in. Manufacturers are eliminating SKUs, which is going to be a good thing long term because what they've done is they probably expanded their product portfolio when things were good because they wanted to have new innovative items and things like that. And now they're looking and going, well, this is 1,000 cases a week that we sell. This is, 50. We're going to get rid of the 50 so we can focus on the 1,000.
Oh yeah. And you see that with a lot of the drink manufacturers and really limiting the number of SKUs. And it's just, you're not going to get your peppermint infused truffle butter, anymore. It's like, it's going to be limited.
Well, a big example that everybody's going through is Appetizers. So, the big French fry companies that also do appetizers, like a lot of them have shut off their appetizer production,
Really?
Limited it or shut it off. Like you ain't getting
it. What's a short that like?
Everything from jalapeno poppers to tater tots or potato skin boats, like like all that stuff that just takes so much labor and so much. They just said, you know what, we're holding off right now. And listen, we're talking to mostly restaurant people. Food service is always going to be second to retail. Yeah. You know what I mean? So as retail spiked at the beginning of the pandemic, all the manufacturing put their production towards retail. Then retail kind of settled out. Food service took a skyrocket, and then they had to flip and switch, and that doesn't, they got to do that, and it's not efficient, and not, and then now coming into the holidays, we're sitting here in the middle of December. They're always going to pick retail first. If retail goes, production, they're picking retail first. They want their brand in your home. You know what I mean? They're not shorting that. That's what they want.
Well, there's more meat on the bone in retail. I mean, when you do a 5-gallon bucket of something, the price per ounce goes way down. So
that's one thing to note too. So if you're in the restaurant business, as we're going through this, like just remember, like when retail's hot, food service is always going to take a back seat. Product on allocation, because of production. Now, good manufacturers have actually done that where they've allocated product. I think that's a smart thing because they're able to throttle their production and their demand. And now it does sometimes hurt because, I could be selling something 50 cases a week, but my allocation is only 30. So I'm short 20 cases. I got to figure out what do I do with those customers, And so you make those decisions. Communication is the worst ever. We have suppliers that will let you know ahead of time if you're going to be short something. And we got guys that you open up the back of the truck and surprise,
1 pallet of chicken wings. Yeah, like it's amazing when you order a truckload of something and there's 2 pallets on there.
I'm going to tell you a story, and I won't name the vendor.
Okay,
but we had a truck that was a week late. Okay, now we're a full truck customer. Full truck once a week. Okay, we had a truck that was a week late. And so when a truck's a week late, 2 trucks are coming in, right? Because you had the one from the week before and you got the one coming in that week.
Fresh or frozen?
This was frozen.
Okay.
This happened to be frozen. The truck that was late on a 53-foot semi, you can fit 24 to 20, probably 26 pallets on a 53-foot truck.
Nice.
So we had 2 trucks coming in, okay? They hit the same day. Guess how many pallets were on those 2 trucks combined? 26 times 2 is 52. Yeah. For full trucks, and we bought a full truck.
Yeah, no, it's like that.
How many pallets were on the two trucks combined?
I mean, are they not sending
10
on both combined or each?
10.
Oh my god. Really?
So, but think about how messed up this is.
Yeah.
This company sent us 2/3 of a truck.
Yeah.
Like, how inefficient is that?
No.
Like, they paid for, first of all, they paid for 2 trucks.
Yeah.
And shipped us 1/3 on 2 trucks. It's comical. I hate to say it's comical. It's mind-numbing. So that's some of the things that, on the distributor or the supplier end that we're dealing with. We've got vendors that, would be in the high 90s fill rate pre-pandemic are now in the 50s.
Yeah.
Filling our orders.
And correct me if I'm wrong, high 90s is doable as far as you can live with it because we have inventory and there's slack in the chain and stuff like that. But 50%,
it's hard to keep up.
It's a gut check moment all the time.
Yeah, for sure. Number 4, distributors. Very very aware of what's going on there. So I think a lot of things that happened is nobody knew when the restaurants were going to come back. You know what I mean? Like we do a pretty robust St. Patrick's Day business here in Northeast Ohio, and the product that we carry, we do some good business on St. Patrick's Day. And then normally there's a little drop off for maybe a month and a half, and then it ramps back up for summer business. We went into St. Patrick's Day and boom, just kept going. You know, in our world, we started behind a little bit. We started behind on labor, drivers and warehouse. We started behind on product, you know, so we, you know, and again, if I can go back in time and change it, you know, I would have done that. But some of that forecasting, like you didn't know. You know, I mean, you didn't.
Were you going to look at last year?
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
Like,
are you kidding me? Yeah,
who knew?
Yeah, so you didn't really know what was going to happen. So that, you know, so you start behind a little bit, and then on the distributor end, like thank God, the team at Hillcrest, in management wise and the operations end, has done a fantastic job of keeping us ahead, hiring quickly. You know, I mean, training well. We haven't seen, knock on wood, like our labor, maybe some shortage in the summer, but you know, now we're sitting here in December, like we're sitting really well as far as operations, like warehouse, night shift drivers, and our customers are seeing that. You know, I mean, we're showing up on time, we're doing all those things.
And I think a lot of the labor crisis is a turnover crisis, as we've talked about many times on the podcast. Like
sure. Okay, so 4 distributors. Okay, number 5, the restaurant operators. Okay, you know, we've talked about this a lot. The Great Resignation, the turnover crisis, like whatever you want to call it, labor shortage in the restaurants. It's horrendous. You know what I mean? We've got all kinds of customers.
I got 50 million Dogecoin though, dude. Do you think I'm going to work in your restaurant? Like,
yeah. 50 million? Sounds like a lot. You know, so labor shortage, you know, customers, they're shutting down days of the week. You know, I've got very good operators. They're closed Monday, Tuesday, or they're closed Tuesday. They're shutting down so that they can give their people a break. They can, you know, operate and retain their people. And, you know, so it's been tough. As restaurant operators know, high costs, all these things we've talked about through this chain don't reduce costs. No. They raise them.
It's not the distributor getting rich here. I mean, this is a scenario where we're happy to have the product and we want to provide it to our customers, but there's, you know, there may be people profiteering along the line here, but it's definitely not the distributor because our costs are going up on every turn. Yeah. Oil went up a ton. Everything went up.
And this is the way I look at it. Like if you own a restaurant and you're making 10% bottom line, so you're making 10% net, okay? And all of a sudden I force you to make 7. Like, are you happy?
No.
But are you going to do nothing, or you're probably going to do something, right? To retain people,
100%.
I mean, everything. So it's no different. Like, but when you gotta look at the whole thing and have, listen. We're all going through the pandemic. That's the greatest way I can describe it. The supplier's going through it. I could be pissed at the supplier. The distributor's going through it. The you're going through it as a restaurant person. You know what I mean? Like everybody's going through it. Okay, so we got to have some compassion, empathy, work together. And get out on the other side healthy so that we can continue to employ people and do business. You know,
one thing you hit on is communication. I think that's one thing that maybe the vendors haven't done a great job at, and maybe because they don't know.
And some have.
Some,
you know,
yeah. And then secondarily, it's what things that an operator can do to be successful.
You know, I think that, and we've talked about this in past episodes, like I feel like this whole situation has uncovered past sins. You know what I mean? So things that you could get away with. Pre-pandemic or things that you just can't get away with now. Okay, so pre-pandemic, okay, an employee is maybe a little salty with you, maybe shows up late, maybe you have a little less tolerance, right? You're like, get out of you don't want to be with the program, get out of here. Now I feel like, you know, employee comes in, literally spits in your face. You wipe it off and go, well, he didn't really mean it. You know what I mean? He didn't really. I mean, that was a mistake. No, we're just gonna let that go.
Sometimes how he talks when he spits.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So as an operator, the short-term mentality tells you that no, I got to keep this person. I got to keep let people go. I can't. You know what I mean? But I was just talking to a very, very great customer and great friend. You know, he had a sous chef. The guy went off on him and he goes, "Get out." Dude, we were high-fiving like, dude, that's amazing because a lot of people aren't doing that now. They're not holding themselves to standards in the employees and all those things because this guy is a good operator, but he had somebody right behind this guy as a sous chef that wanted to step up and do it. And so he's like, dude, get lost. I'm not putting up with that. You know, how do you operate? What are your systems? What's your culture? Like all the things we talk about here in Restaurantopia, you know what I mean? But if you didn't have that stuff set up, you're being exposed right now. You know what I mean? And if you don't have the self-awareness to realize that, you know what I mean, and make some pivots and do some stuff, you know, like when's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the second best time? Right now. You know what I mean? So get started. You know, it's not going to be an overnight fix, but you got to get that stuff straight.
Yeah. I like what you said about having the player on deck ready to move into that position. So when you get really thin bench and you don't have those additional players to do it, it's going to hurt your operation. It's going to hurt your long-term growth.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, you got to pay people a living wage. You got to do the right thing on the income side, but people also want to be a part of something great. You know, they want to be a part of a busy restaurant that serves high quality food and has great service and people talk well about it. You know, I mean, you don't want to work for some place that's like, oh, that's a dive or a crap hole, or you know what I mean? And you could get food poisoning eating there. You know what I mean? Like, nobody wants to work in that environment. You know? No. So here's one other thing on the operator side. You know, communication again, and you touched on it.
Yeah.
But like, how are we communicating with the distributor and the suppliers to make sure that we're on the same page?
Yeah.
You know, I had a situation where a customer changed their menu, put on an item that's got a supply issue. They didn't know it was a supply issue, but they also didn't ask.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're like, well, it's on our menu now. I'm like, well, you didn't we're in a pandemic, dude. You didn't think to say like, hey, I'm going to make this switch. Like, is this going to work?
It's hard to get jalapeno hopper.
Yeah. And I forget what item it was, but I'm saying like it was all of a sudden an issue. Like, well, it's on my menu now. I'm like, well, I didn't do that. Like, so how are we communicating those things that you wouldn't even think of 2 years ago to talk about?
No, you have
now
jalapeno
we got to work together and we got to do that. One really is on the consumer end. So again, these people are coming in our restaurants, they're paying higher prices. We got to give them, great service. If we have to limit the hours and increase the ticket, make the menu easier, that like Anthony talks about, so that you can execute it easier with less people, and all those things like you got to do, to make sure that consumer is going to want to spend their hard-earned dollar in your place and have a great experience.
No, I agree. So we're doing so many things here at Hillcrest to alleviate any issues that our customers are having. I mean, I know we're ordering sooner, we're holding more inventory, we're recovering from other, vendors that we maybe wouldn't work with in the past. What are some of the things that an operator can do today to alleviate some of the stress on their restaurant?
Yeah, I think the main things are the communication is important. We talked about that. I think that the operator needs to be flexible. Again, have some compassion, have some empathy, have some backups. Like, I think
substitutions.
Well, yeah, no, exactly. So have you sat down with your sales rep and said, hey, on my main stuff that's really important, like if something happens with this, like what is the backup plan?
Yeah.
I mean, have those conversations ahead of time so that when it happens, you're ready to deal with it.
And test that product. If you are using this burger and it's known to go short, what are your backup options, and is it providing the consistency that you have and expect for your restaurant and that your customers expect?
Yeah, and if you were the type of operator that would wake up and wait for the phone to ring rather than somebody that wakes up to a strategy, your phone's ringing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and stuff's going to happen. So we know this is probably not going away, and I have no crystal ball. I don't know, but I'm just telling you that this is going to ebb and flow throughout 2022 for the most of the year, is what my opinion is. And some of this stuff is going to bleed into future years, multiple years. But, so do I think, I don't know when there's no switch here. Like there's going to be some sections that get better quicker and some that get worse. But, this is going to last. I'm mentally preparing for another 12 months and setting up strategies, as you said, some solutions that we're doing to be able to make sure that, we're there for the restaurants. But yeah, on the operator end, communication, being flexible, having backup plans.
Smaller menu.
Yeah, because obviously, again, labor shortage. That we should just actually clip labor shortage, and then you could just throw it in. Like, we don't have to say it. You could just throw it in. Having a smaller menu, having a more efficient operation. Look at automation where you can.
Yep.
Look at if you got somebody that spend 10 hours a week on your social media, like how do you automate it? Rev has done some great episodes with us on marketing and how do you some things to do that. So if you've got somebody physically doing that work, like how do you make that lessen them down and maybe reallocate the resources and all those things to just, you got to be a student of your business, as you say.
Quick episode. I love the insight on it. Like, we can all blame the government, we can blame the manufacturers, and we can blame the truck drivers, but at the end of the day, this is a multifaceted issue that is complex and is real, and it's not going to get solved overnight. You need to prepare yourself to perform the best in the current climate and conditions.
Yeah, for sure.
This is a high quality pod.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care. Adios.
Thank you for listening to Restaurantopia. The gratitude that we have for each and every one of you spending your precious time to listen to this podcast is immeasurable. Please make sure to tell a friend about this podcast. And also, if you have any feedback for us, visit us on restaurantopia.com and drop us a line. You can also subscribe on your favorite place to listen to podcasts. Thank you and have a great day.
We also want to thank our sponsor, Hillcrest Food Service. If you are a local independent restaurant and are looking for a distributor who has chef and operational consulting, provides marketing support, does menu reviews, and most importantly, wants you to be successful, reach out to Hillcrest Food Service at hillcrestfoods.com.
I'm an amazing editor. Amazing.
Right? Actually, my kids the other day, my daughter was like, what was that thing? Because somebody on the TV went, toodaloo.
Oh, yeah.
And she goes, toodaloo, that's like the end of your podcast. And I was like, yeah. She goes, what was that other one that was funny? She's like, it was like, and I was like, yeah, And she was like, what was the line that you said, though? To my daughter. Yeah. She goes, what was the line you said? And I was just about to say it. She goes, something about if it's clean enough to go, right? And I was like,
there you
number
go.
one fan.
Number one fan. She just want a t-shirt.